Hey guys, check it out. My lens shelf is empty. That's because today we're talking about lenses, or at least my lens collection here. I hope this doesn't come off as braggadocious or like I'm trying to show off. I've just been fortunate enough to amass this little lens collection here over the last 15 years or so. And in a world where RF lenses are everywhere, you know, I'm not gonna say everywhere, but it's the talk of the town. Everybody's RF and mirrorless and whatever. I have not quite made that leap just yet because, you know, money. I could do that thing where I'm like, you know, there's just something special about this lens. I'll tell you what that thing is. Money. They're cheaper, you know, especially nowadays. I've bought these over the course of the last several years, but you can definitely get them for some good prices nowadays. But yeah, let's get into it. First off here, we got the Canon 24mm f1.4 L series lens, and this here is a phenomenal lens. It's heavy duty construction, metal body, built like a tank. It's got some nice weight to it. It's not too heavy. I like using this a lot for like those wide angle kind of like distorted portraits where you kind of have like your hands out and your wrist and your watch are in focus or something like that, or maybe your sneakers are out there in front of the camera and everything else in the background is blown out, but with that 1.4 aperture, you know. Love this lens. I'd like to use it more for landscapes, but I just don't. It's not really my go-to, although I have taken some phenomenal landscapes with it. It's not my go-to for landscapes, but it's still a phenomenal lens. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Next up, let's go in order here. We got the Sigma 35mm f1.4 art series lens. This is kind of the odd man out because it's the only non-Canon version or non-red ring lens that I've got here. But it's still a phenomenal lens. Again, heavy duty metal construction. It's got that A badge there for the art series lenses, kind of signifying it's the pro grade glass. 35mm is a staple of any photographer's kind of loadout or camera bag. It's kind of a standard even for like wedding photography. You'll see a lot of guys out there shooting on like a 35 and an 85 or 35 and a 50. It's great for environmental portraits. I've even used it in studio at times just because I really like the 35mm focal range. That being said, I would like to get the Canon version. Not necessarily because it's better, because this one is phenomenal, just because I'd like to have all red rings across the board. So that might be coming in the near future. Fingers crossed, we'll see. Up next, we got the 50mm f1.2 L series lens, and this here is just the most magical lens there is. If you know anything about photography, use it for anything and everything. Street photography, landscape photography, portrait photography, wedding photography, event photography, sports photography, it doesn't matter. This is probably, if not one of the very first lenses, should be the first lens that any photographer should buy. The 1.8 version, it's a far cry from this. The 1.8 version, you can get it for about $100, maybe even less, you know, nowadays used. Especially because the RF version is probably like 200 or something like that. This is the 1.2 version, so quite a few bucks more expensive. But again, considering all the newer glasses out on the market, you can get it for significantly cheaper on the used market. And it's still a great lens, so keep an eye out for one of these if you're looking to upgrade your gear. Next up, we got the 100mm f2.8 macro lens, again by Canon. Look at this. There's something about looking into the glass of a lens is pretty cool. This one's a specialty. I keep saying I'm so sorry guys. I'm trying to stop doing that. This is more of a specialty lens. I use this a lot for weddings, there's that again. I use it a lot for weddings, for like bridal details and things like that. Just yesterday, actually, there was a spider in my garage and I ran down with this lens. I got some pretty cool photos of him or her, of it, whatever that spider was. I'll put a picture right here. It looks like an it. It's a creature of sorts. It was only about this big, but in the photo, macro, it looks enormous. Stop saying I have also used this as a portrait lens. It's great. The autofocus is not the best when it comes to portraiture and like, you know, events, things moving fast, but it's not meant for that, but it can be used for that in a pinch. But as far as what it does, phenomenal lens. 10 out of 10 recommend if you need something like that in your kit, especially if you're a wedding photographer. If you're a wedding photographer, you need to get your hands on one of these. Not necessarily at first, but it's something to strive for. Next up, we got the 135, brace yourself, the 135 f2 L series lens. Look at that element. That glass looks crazy. I feel like this lens does not get the love that it should. It was once known as Canon's sharpest lens. Nowadays, I don't know what else they got out there. You know, I'm sure the RF lenses, I'm pretty sure they have an RF 135 as well. But this lens is a beast. I love using it for portraiture. I love using it for landscapes. I love using it at events. Oftentimes I'll opt for this lens instead of this one over here, which we'll get to in a second, just because it's significantly smaller and lighter weight. So depending on what I'm doing, I might consider taking this one. I actually shot an event last night and I took this one with me. Good thing I did, because since it goes down to f2, I got a little bit more light and it wasn't the best lighting scenario at that event. So shout out to the 135 here. Next up, we got the 2470 f2.8 L series lens. This is the version 1. There's a bunch of them out there. There's the version 2. I think there might even be a version 3. I'm not sure. But there's also the RF variants and all that good stuff. This is known as the workhorse. Use this in studio, use this on location, use it for weddings, use it for portraits, use it for whatever you want. It's 2470, little bit wide, little bit telephoto. You know, it's one of the first pro lenses that most people tend to get because of its versatility. That being said, I use this primarily in studio. I don't often take it out into the world, but I use it a lot. It's probably my second most used lens, I would say. Now, the most used lens is this bad boy right here. The myth, the legend, the Canon 70-200 f2.8 IS L series version 2. And this thing is a monster of a lens. I've had it for quite some time now, actually a really, really long time. There's a version 3, there's the RF, there's the new RF, the short version, the long version, the extending barrel, all that good stuff. This is the version 2. I've never had a need to upgrade it. It's phenomenal, it works. I use it I mean, I'm not gonna say exclusively, but if I have a photo shoot in studio, 9 times out of 10, I'm going for this lens first and then working my way around this. But this is like a staple of my photography. I like taking out into the woods. I like doing wildlife with it. I take it to weddings and stuff like that. Again, sometimes I'll opt for the 135 because it's smaller and lighter weight. But every time I do, I always think, was this a good idea? Should I have brought my 70-200? But when it works, it works. It never fails. This is just one of those lenses. Now, I know you guys have been looking at this thing over here. The 500 millimeter f4. Hold on now. Ugh. This thing is a monster, quite literally. It runs the span of all the other lenses on the table here. Canon 500 millimeter f4 L series lens. Massive lens hood. And even more massive glass element. Look at that. My goodness. That is bananas in pajamas right there. I bought this a few months back because I recently got into shooting a lot of youth sports as well as wildlife. And it's amazing. It's not, you don't get the most light in there at f4. But at 500 millimeters, you compromise. It's fine. There is a 400 millimeter f2.8. You get a little less reach, but a little more light. And there's a 600 millimeter f4, same amount of light as this, but a little bit more reach. I have been considering getting rid of this and trying to get my hands on one of those two, because 500 at times is a little too long for youth sports and a little too short for like birds and things like that. So I've considered in the near future maybe swapping out, but I don't know. It might not be worth the hassle because 500 is just a sweet spot. You know, it's not the best lens for either one of those things, but it's the perfect lens to do all of those things maybe, you know? I mean, granted, the 400, I feel like the 400 at 2.8 is probably really nice just for those early morning hikes when the sun is just creeping up over the mountaintop and you see a bald eagle or a bear or something, you're like, ISO. Let me put that over there. But yeah, that is my lens collection, with the exception of one last lens I forgot about. Obviously, the one that's on the camera. It's the Canon 16-35 millimeter f2.8 version 3. As far as zoom lenses go, that might be my most used lens, like general purpose all used lens. It's really wide at 16 and just telephoto enough at 35 that you can do some environment through portraits. It's great for like vlogging and stuff like that. Oftentimes, if I'm just kind of going out for a walk, I'm gonna grab that lens. It's not too heavy. It is beefy. It's beefy, it's big, but it's not too heavy. It's not as heavy as like 24-70. I think it might be lighter. I might be wrong, but I think it's lighter. I'll add some B-roll, by the way. It might have already passed, so you can see that. But yeah, this is my lens collection. This is what I attack the world with. I'd like to get my hands on an 85 millimeter to squeeze in right here between the 50 and the 100. But that'll be a conversation for another day. Also, I'm using this microphone here, but also this microphone here, just to see which one sounds better. But yeah, this is my nifty little lens collection, which cost me a lot of money over the last couple of years, but totally worth it. Wouldn't trade them for the world. I'm not good at this part, the ending. What's the thing? Drop, hit the like button, drop a comment, subscribe. All that good stuff. I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna get a script going. I'm gonna work on the ending. But yeah, that's my stuff here, guys. I hope you liked it. Peace.